Fatigue is when I can hear you 10 miles away in Walmart with your 5 fucking kids. Black fatigue is when you have no home training and you have no idea how to act in public. And a lot of it is culture. I've been in the hood, I've been in the fucking schools and the projects where I was the only white girl there, and I can 100% guarantee you that it's culture. When majority of y'all know someone who has been unalived by another black person, way more than any instance of a black person being unjustifiably unalived by the police, that's black fatigue. As well as donating to Carmelo Anthony and Rodney Hinton Jr. When you aren't able to hold your own community accountable, that's a problem. We're not going to sit here and act like this is new now, because now white people are speaking out. Especially when we've been told for so long to feel sorry for our whiteness and that we have white tea privilege, whatever the fuck that means, for something no white person alive today did and no black person alive today has experienced. There is no way that y'all thought that we would be quiet for this long. You know, having us on our knees, kissing BLM's feet, still begging for the reparations that you are not fucking owed because you did not go through what your ancestors went through. Nobody cared about race until you started blaming white people for all of your current problems. We're just untolerated.
So I want to touch on a couple of things that she had said. Before we get into it, my name is Fitz. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I can honestly say that white people are the worst victims in history. Really. In the United States, white people are the are the worst victims in history. Why? Because if you didn't know any better and you were just going based off of what they're doing online and how they're coming online and complaining now about black people and other groups of people talking about white people, you would think that they actually have gone through something. But here are the facts, right? Right now, white people are pretty much just annoyed. They're not actually going through any systemic changes because of anything that other groups of people are doing. They're not oppressed. They can't point to really any actual systemic issues going on that's impacting them on a large scale in a negative way. Most of their complaints are based on media propaganda and the fake fear that they see based off of online influencers. Because let's be perfectly clear. You cannot be a victim group in this country and control 80 to 85% of the wealth and resources. That's what white people control. White people control 80 to 85% of the wealth and resources in this country. And they're only about 59 to 60% of the population. Right? So they want to talk about blacks committing a disproportionate amount of crime relative to their proportion. Hey, why don't we talk about that disproportion? Is it because it's in your favor? Is that why? We only want to talk about numbers when they're not in your favor, though, right? When it comes to land, agricultural land, white people control about 98% of the agricultural land in this country. So they control most of the wealth, and I don't even want to say most because we know that they are a majority in this country, but they control a disproportionate amount of the wealth and disproportionate amount of the resources. And so what that gets me to is right now, white people are trying to position themselves as a victim when they control a majority of the resources. That has never happened in this country, where a group of people have controlled a majority of the resources and now all of a sudden they're victims. But I think white people back in the day kind of understood. They understood the trade-offs. When you're in control and you have a majority of the resources and powers, you're the target. But white people now are weak. White people now are weak. They control a majority of the resources disproportionate to their population. They still have most of the opportunities. There's still a majority of the CEOs disproportionate to their population, managers, etc. They still control a majority of this country, but they still feel like they are at risk. They are the victims. Their communities are not the ones that get brutalized. Their communities are not the ones that get the innocent people in the community are getting killed by the criminals. Their communities are not the one with underfunded schools in a majority of these cases. They have a majority of the opportunity still, even when you talk about DEI programs, even when you talk about some of the changes that are happening, they still control a majority of the resources and assets within this country. And so when I hear her talking about black fatigue, and I just don't understand why she's talking about it. How has this impacted her life? Oh, she had to hear some black people in the store with their kids. She pretty much, white people have to deal with being annoyed. That's their gripe. That's the struggle of the 21st century with white people. They have to deal with being annoyed. She did talk about black on white crime, but if we look at that raw number, it's a very small number of black people killing white people. As a matter of fact, you can go to any black neighborhood, and what you will see is that the white people that live in that neighborhood are the safest. Why? Because black on black crime has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that black people have a self-hatred for other black people. Black people have black people understand that when they commit crimes against other black people, it's going to go underreported. When they commit crimes against other black people, the police are going to look at it a little differently. They may not investigate it as much because it's so normal. But when a black person does something to a white person, it's going to be headlines. It's going to be talked about because there's going to be outrage by white people that are like, oh, this is racist. And that's the other thing. I don't think that it's genuine for white people, specifically white people on the right, to sit around and say they are colorblind, they don't believe that racism exists, but then whenever something happens to a white person, they go, well, it was racism, or see, is it like that? Y'all talk about race just as much as black people, you just talk about it in a different way. So my whole point with this conversation, and I want to, build on something else she said, was culture, right? She said that black fatigue is because of culture, that a lot of the negative things that happen within the black community are due to culture. And I 100% agree with that. On the flip side, though, I believe now we live in a culture where it's appropriate for white people to act like they are the victims. I believe that we live in a culture where white people are the most sensitive group within this country. And I believe that is why we are seeing more and more white people come online and speak about it publicly, is because they've truly been holding it in this whole time. They wanted to say it, but didn't have the courage or didn't feel like they would be publicly accepted for it. But now they get a little boost because they see other white people doing it. And I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that white people are not in the hot seat right now. I 100% believe they're in the hot seat. I believe it's more acceptable to talk about white people publicly in a negative way. I believe that it's more acceptable for white people to be discriminated against openly and publicly. I believe that white people are in the hot seat. But what we cannot do is ignore the fact that white people still control a majority of the assets and resources. As a matter of fact, if black people had to go through everything that white people are going through now, but the trade-off was that we controlled 80 to 85% of the resources, 98% of the agricultural land, any group would make that change with white people right now. Any group would make that change with white people right now. So my advice to white people, and I really shouldn't be saying this because I want to build up the black community, and I think that in order to do that, white people have to lose some power. But my advice would be, y'all are fumbling the bag. Y'all are fumbling your bag. You don't even realize. Just like the white people will say, well, black people never went through slavery. You have never gone through oppression. But y'all want to act like these things are actual oppression. Y'all haven't gone through oppression. When you look at the numbers, y'all still control a majority of things. And you're going to fumble it by trying to run in what some people have called the victim Olympics with other groups of people. Y'all need to be quiet. Y'all need to stop getting online making these videos. Why? Because all it does is increase the chances that this fight goes on and on and on and on. Y'all just need to stop, because you're shining more light on the fact that you control a majority of the resources, and all you're doing is showing once again that you don't actually know what it is to be oppressed. But that's my take. That's my take, right? Again, I try to be fair as possible when it comes to these conversations. White people are annoyed right now. That's not actual oppression. They're annoyed. Yes, there are some black on white crimes, but the raw numbers, they're just not high enough to really be eligible for a crisis. And as a matter of fact, the only reason we talk about black on white crime is to take light away from black on black crime, which is the actual issue. Black on black crime. But let me know what y'all think in the comment section. I know this one is going to get some heat. I'm prepared for it. We can even do a live debate or a live stream, and people can come up in the live chat and let me know their thoughts. I'm all for it. Make sure you tap in, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're a content creator looking to grow your brand online without the burnout, make sure you tap into my content confidence workbook. Information is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Appreciate y'all, and I'll see you in the next video.